Hey folks, on today's episode of Wii Teach You, I'm going to show you how you can make backups of your Wii and GameCube games using your personal computer. Now this method is for Windows only, so sorry to all those Mac users out there. This is another version of a guide that was originally written on the Wii News forums, and I have to give a special thanks out to the guys over at the Wii News forums for putting this great software out that we're going to be using, as well as to Austin, one of the moderators on the forums, for putting out the original version of this guide. Now, major disclaimer is that we are making backups only. Do not make copies of games that you do not already own. That is stealing. That is piracy. And we do not advocate either of those things. We are making legitimate backups for the purposes of archiving in case the unthinkable happens. Things that you're going to need in order to do this: we're going to need a game, either a Wii or GameCube game that we want to back up. The raw dump software, which was put out by the Wii News forums. This is the software that we're going to be using to rip the file off of our DVD and onto the computer. And last thing you're going to need is something very specific. That is a particular type of LG DVD-ROM drive. Now, unfortunately, the raw dump software that we're using only works on these particular models of drives. And if you don't have this particular kind of drive, then sorry, you're SOL. Luckily, though, these drives are extremely cheap, and you can usually pick them up online. I know that a lot of people have been saying that you can get them on Newegg for about 17 bucks, and so I'll have the links to that in the show notes. So once you have this particular drive, then you should be able to rip your games no problem. Now that we have everything we're going to need, let's get started. Once you download the raw dump software off the Wii News forums, go ahead and launch it up. I already put the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess Wii game in my DVD-ROM drive, and so I'm going to load up the raw dump software. It's going to take a second or two to load up. I'll be posting the links to where you can download all of the software as well as the other guides and whatnot in the show notes. One thing to note, though, is you are going to have to make an account on the Wii News forums, so do so when you get onto the page. So this is the interface for the raw dump software. You can see it's the raw dump 2.0 software for Wii and GameCube discs. If you have the older versions of the raw dump, I recommend you get the newer one. Major benefit is that it takes a lot less time to dump. You're looking at an average of 2 to 3 hours to dump a full Wii game, so it's going to take you a little bit of time. You can see we have our drive selection list. In this particular case, I'm going to be using my DVD-ROM drive. We've got the 8163B. That's the particular drive I have. And the other two options that we have are Start Dump, which will actually start the dumping process, and Convert RAW to ISO. Now, you would use Convert RAW to ISO if you happen to, say, download a Wii game that was in a RAW format that you would like converted over to an ISO so you can burn it. But in our case, we're going to be ripping it straight, so I'll just go ahead and hit Start Dump. And that is pretty much it. It's going to spin up my DVD-ROM drive and actually start ripping the game, and you're gonna see it refresh here in just a second once it actually starts to do something. Yep, here it goes. DVD name, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, Finding the Seed, and then it's going to actually start dumping the data onto the drive. It's going to be dumping the files in what's called an ISO file. An ISO file is basically a file that represents the contents of the entire DVD. It's also called an image file. This particular image file is burnable by pretty much any type of DVD burning software, and the software I'm going to be showing you is my favorite burning software, and that's Nero Burning Rom. And again, I'll have all the links to all these different things in the show notes. So I'm going to cancel out of this just to show you what the next step would be. So I'll just hit X, and that's out of it. And we can see in the raw dump directory, it started to dump the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.iso. Now, unfortunately, this is only burned 9 megabytes worth, but in the end, when you finish your dumping, you should see 4 gigabytes worth, or 4.37 gigabytes worth to be exact. That should be the final format file size of a Wii dumped ISO file. So now that so let's say, for the sake of argument, that I do have a completed file here, I'll go into my Nero Burning Rom, and now in Nero Burning Rom, if you are using this type of software, you can go over to Recorder and then Burn Image, and now you can actually select where you want your file to dump, and you can see there's Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.iso. Click it and select Open, and now the file is ready to be burned. We just need to pop in a DVD drive. Pop in a DVD disc into my drive, and it will start to burn. Now, some major things that I want to specify, well, first is obviously select DVD up there, is to make sure that when you're burning a Wii game, you select 4x maximum. The reason for that is because to ensure that the quality of the burn is optimal, that we don't get read errors. 4x is pretty much a set standard, it's standardized, and it's one of the safest burning speeds to burn at. The other major thing you want to keep into consideration when you're burning a DVD is that you use good DVD media. And I recommend Taiyo Yuden media, which is media out of Japan. I'll actually show you. If you're in Canada, I recommend you hit up ncix.com and you can actually pick up a spindle of 100 Taiyo Yuden 8X certified DVD minus R media for about $33, $34. So that is pretty much it for this edition of Wii Teach You. I recommend you hit up the show notes after this to check out all the links to all the different pieces of software, as well as to the different websites that I have that I've been talking about. Thanks again to the guys over at Wii News Forums for putting out this great stuff, and I'll see you next time.